everybody. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift. Today we're going to be in conversation with Dr. Sukanya. She is the first person from her university and the first person from Assam who has gone on an expedition to Antarctica for climate change. Let me read a little bit about you. Dr. Sukanya, a recent doctorate degree holder in climate science from the University of Galway in Ireland. She has actively engaged in climate change research. She's a climate scientist and a passionate science communicator. She's also the co-founder of Muggle Science Podcast, a platform that discusses crucial issues such as climate change and sustainability in layman's language. She's right here. Let's welcome her. She can't hear me. You can't hear me? Okay, let me get you on and then let's see. Hello. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. At that time, I couldn't hear you. I don't know why. But still,
Okay.
the sound is not coming via my Bluetooth. Like it's coming outside of it. I don't know why.
Okay. Do you want to
Uh,
take away your Bluetooth?
uh, yeah, sure. I think like even if I'm not, putting this, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Sure.
Everyone, hey everybody, can you please confirm if you can hear us loud and clear? Hey Shivani, these are all your friends.
Yes, they are. Sol, Nomad, like and Sanya, they were also in Antarctica with me. So my Antarctica team has also joined.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that is lovely. That is lovely. Okay, so let's get right into it. I don't know if you heard my little introduction about you. So you are the first woman from Assam and the first woman from your university to be selected to go as a climate force ambassador to Antarctica. I think your parents, your people, your university, Assam, India is so proud of you. Yay! There are people who are okay. So, Sukanya, good evening,
Yeah.
and let's get to know you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone who's here on a Friday evening. I'm sure they must be having so many places they could rather be. So
Aw.
thank you so much.
Okay. So, Sukanya, tell us, like, I want to know about your early days, your childhood. What makes you tick, and what kind of upbringing is there for a person like you who believes that you are the change, and you can actually go out there and make a change.
Sure. Well, in terms of upbringing, I have had a very typical middle class upbringing. So we have had our share of struggles, but being from this part of the world, like being from Assam, Assam is very blessed to be rich in biodiversity. So being from this part of the world, I was always close to nature. So my parents also encouraged this, and they are still very close to nature. And in terms of education, they gave a lot of weightage on education, so they did their best to educate both me and my sister. And they were feminist, so we are very, like, our family is like very, women power, yeah. So we are like that. So we're two daughters anyway. So my mother was really, like, she was always encouraging. She's still very encouraging. It's she actually, she was the catalyst that you could do anything that you want to. So that force came from my mom. My dad was also very encouraging. Sadly, he passed away like 12 years back, but that thing has always been there. So because the focus was on education, we always wanted to do better for that. And in terms of sustainability, like any middle class family, I'm sure they would understand. Like we always, even before we knew the term sustainability, we always were sustainable. Now only we have realized that, okay, that was sustainable, but we always did those things. Like we always used to carry our bags to the sabzi mandi. We would always, like, if by chance had a plastic bag, we would put it under the mattress to save it, because we didn't have much access to, poly bags back then. So that sustainability thing was always there, and I'm sure Indian middle class families would agree with that. So yeah, that kind of an upbringing, I think, especially from, the parents, they always forced on, they always not just forced, like motivated us to do better. Yeah. And if I did any mistake, my mom would always encourage to, it's fine that you're doing. She would always like tell a story. So in the in that story, she would just convey the moral of the story, and then she would just say that do not repeat it. You have now known, that that's a mistake. So that was always like a way that she would deal with us. So that has always stayed with us. So yeah, that's it.
That
I think.
So cute. Like when you just said, that everything begins in India.
Yeah.
And then it goes all around the world. It has all these fancy labels, and then it is sold back to us, and then it is us. And when we did it initially as a part of our culture, like sell the newspapers, sell the plastic bottles, reuse all the containers.
True.
We used to have the kirana shops, and now the West is selling us the kirana shops. Like, oh, you need to go to these sustainability, you should not.
Yeah.
And first it was like kirana shops.
Yeah.
And then,
It's like fill the bottles shop or something. That is, I forgot the name, but I know, like in Galway also it's there, Yeah. So yeah. The West is adopted later.
And all that. Yeah, they give you all these fancy names, and then and they own it like as if it was their own. We've been doing it since time immemorial.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right. So, Sukanya, tell me, when was your paradigm shift and what led to it? Do you remember a moment in time? And what, I'm sure with the paradigm shift comes challenges and obstacles, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. No, I would say it happened when I went to the West, to pursue my PhD. So, as I said, when I was staying in India, it was always, I was living a sustainable lifestyle, I didn't have much footprint. But I didn't notice it because it was a habit, like I just did it. Out of habit. But when I moved to the West, that's when I realized that, all my footprints are increasing. Like my single-use plastic, the amount of single-use plastic I used to generate was way 10 times, 20 times more than what I used to do in India. So that's when I realized that this is too much. And out of, I don't know, the middle class in me, I think I used to save those plastics thinking that it would come for use later, But I was renting a room in Ireland, and I ran out of space at some point that, oh my God, where would I store all these plastics now? But those are single-use plastics. So then I realized that, no, this is too much. Like, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not paying enough attention to what I'm doing actually. And that's when I realized that, being a PhD student, surviving on a scholarship, I used to go to the supermarket, who's the cheapest, which is the cheapest options. And I would just carry those like tomatoes or whatever, and everything would come in plastic. Like a cucumber would come in a cling film, and that used to like really irritate me. And I used to write to the supermarkets as well, but I'm a single voice. They wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't reply. But I wrote to all the supermarkets. But at least I was like, feeling that I did something on my own. But nothing happened. But then I tried to reduce my footprint myself. Like it starts from your own home, right? So I started doing that, and I started encouraging my friends around me. And then when the pandemic hit, that's when everything went out of balance, everything, it just hit me, and I started to have this eco anxiety. So if you do not know the term, like eco-anxiety is something that, because I'm from this background, climate change background, I know the data behind it, right? So I know how it's changing. I know how it's impacting the planet and our livelihoods. So that kind of like literally changed my habits. And also I used to think, it used to impact me to such an extent that I used to think that I shouldn't have a family, you know? Why would I bring a child in this world when the world is burning? I should adopt instead. You know, I still feel that way. I haven't decided it, but it took such a toll on my mental health. And that's when I reconnected with one of my friends, school friends. And then we used to, you know, we found solace in, you know, talking to one another about this thing, because she was also doing her PhD. She's still doing her PhD from Belgium. So that's when we reconnected and started talking about all these things, and realized that we have a lot of information among ourselves. And we thought that we are not doing anything, just talking to each other, and we know these things already. So we should, you know, do something better than that. So that's when the idea of the podcast happened. And that's where we thought that, you know, we should put this eco-anxiety to good use, and we should do something about it, you know, so that people can take informed decisions. So that's when I think that shift happened, and, you know, and we haven't looked back since. Yeah.
Lovely. That is so beautiful. So you mean to say that you were always in this field, like in this field of climate change,
Yeah.
even right after college or whatever your
Yeah. So right after college, like until bachelor's, no. So until bachelor's, I did chemistry. So I have a very interdisciplinary background, actually. So my bachelor's was from Miranda House in University of Delhi. So I did my honors in chemistry. And back then, I used to attend a lot of seminars. So Terry University used to provide a lot of unconventional courses, you know. And that's when geoinformatics came to my, you know, I came to know about it. And the worst part was that I couldn't explain it to my parents, and they thought that I was doing very well during my bachelor's, you know. So I did chemistry, I passed with really good grades and all that, and I just couldn't explain why am I changing the subject suddenly, because I am doing well. And they were like, why are you shifting from DU, which is considered one of the best universities, to Terry? And I'm like, no, Terry is also a good university. Like, I had to, you know, make them explain. Well, my mom was always supportive. My dad was a bit apprehensive before. So he was like, okay, we'll see how you do, you know, we'll see. And then I moved to geoinformatics. So geoinformatics is the study of, you know, Earth remote sensing through satellite images and GIS and mapping and all that. So that's when I got connected to this earth science background, you know, and then climate science. And post my master's, I did like research as a researcher, research fellow, and as a research assistant. I worked in like 3 organizations in different research projects, and all were climate change projects. And I got more and more involved, you know, and I got the perspective of climate change impacts into 3 different fields before my PhD in 3 different organizations. So that's when I realized that this is something that I want to pursue more. So that's when I started applying for scholarships. And then, you know, the PhD was also on climate science. So yeah, so it's been like 10 years that I have been, you know, I involved myself in this field, like in the climate science field.
Okay. That's such an inspiring story. But tell me, once you got into that, then were your parents convinced? Because
Yeah,
they
so
said, like,
yeah, so what happened was my mom was always like, you know, she didn't know, even till now, she feels like if I ask her to explain my PhD topic, she would be climate change. You know, she just would say climate change. It's very sweet. But she would support me regardless of anything, like, you know. But my dad was a bit apprehensive, and very unfortunately during that time, so I was in my first semester, so that's when he got like, it's very personal, but he got like diagnosed with cancer, and he was at the last stage. And I was appearing for my exams, so my mom didn't tell, like my family didn't tell me. So when I came back and I became the topper, you know. So just 2 days prior to my father's death, actually, he got my results, you know. But he was very happy. He was very happy. So that's when he knew that, okay, she knows what she's doing, you know. So yeah.
Wow, that is like
Yeah.
okay, but at least you could
Yeah.
like
He knew about it, and
he was
then
at
yeah.
peace. He was at peace when he knew कि
Yeah.
अच्छा ठीक कर रही है
ठीक
जो भी
चल
कर
रही
रही है ठीक
है.
कर रही है.
ठीक कर रही है, yes.
Okay. So what
Exactly.
motivated you to take part in this expedition, and was there a selection process that could get you to Antarctica?
Yeah. Well, motivation was, because again, I'm from this background, I know about, how it's impacting Antarctica. But as a scientist, we are always very close to data. We always like analyze data, all this, we are in that spider web of papers and, data, and it's just limited to that. Although we know that it is true, it's always good to, see the effects firsthand. But
Right.
then when this opportunity came, like I knew about this expedition from years back, but when I was again studying in Terry, but it didn't occur to me that I would apply, because I thought it's very far-fetched. Like I would think about it later. So that back then I didn't apply. But I know one or two of my friends who applied back then and went with me, So it's been like 10 years that they have been preparing for that. But
Oh,
I didn't apply back then. I knew about it, but I didn't. So when the pandemic hit, I just applied out of fun. Like one of my friends, because she was also doing her PhD, so she told me that I am applying, you also apply. So I just applied for fun. I didn't think it would happen because it had a selection process. It had like 3 stages. So it started with like 2 stages of written, process, and the last stage was an interview. So when I applied, it didn't hit me. So the motivation was that I really wanted to see uh, uh, if I do get selected, like, I knew that there's a very rough road ahead because it would mean that I have to raise a lot of funds, which I didn't know how it would happen during the pandemic. So it was really, but as I said, like I didn't think much at that time. I was like, one thing at a time, chalta hai, I'll just apply, let
right.
me see if I even get selected, because there is a limited amount of people who would be, getting selected for this expedition. So I did. Then one by one, each process, like each stage passed, I used to get even more nervous. That, oh my God, this is getting real. Is this I'm getting? Then I would think that no, not in the interview. Not on the interview. So when this happened, the day it happened, I just couldn't, like, first I didn't tell my parents. My mom would freak out. So I was thinking, because before applying, I didn't tell anybody that I applied, my family. When I got selected, like I took 2 days time to process it. And then I told my sister, my mom. And first, my mom, first thing that she told me was, "Oh my God, will it happen like Titanic? Like what will happen?" I'm like, "Mom, calm down, let's first figure out. I have a lot of things to, figure out before that happens." So so she was very like, again, she was supportive, but she was also scared.
Right.
And yeah, but then my sister also motivated, and she told my mom that no, we shouldn't stop her. Let her do, like, let's let her do what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. And my mom was like, yeah, definitely. Like I wouldn't, but I'm scared. So that's when like this happened, and yeah, and we waited like, I applied in 2020. The expedition happened in 2022 March. So because of the pandemic, so it was getting postponed and postponed and postponed, and also it gave us time to raise funds as well, because it was like a massive amount of fund, like 20,000 US dollars, which I have never seen. So it was like, yeah, so it was really big amount, which took a toll. Again, in the PhD itself is a very, like
Expensive.
intensive process. Yeah, so it did a lot of, it took a lot. Yeah, like it took a lot of determination. Like on some days I would cry basically, and on some days I would cry out of happiness because people, like strangers, would support me, on my crowdfunding. So I raised like around $16,000 from strangers. Yeah, it was great. Like and they don't even know me, and they, connected with me on, my mission and my agenda, my background, and it was really great. Like I didn't expect so much support from Irish people because I'm nobody there. But it was really good. Like they covered me, they invited me to FM like radio stations. They invited me to like I was featured in Irish Times. So it was great. Like I got a lot of support because of which it fueled my fundraising campaign. Yeah, it was great.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So, why was this? I don't know why I assumed this, that when they were taking climate scientists to Antarctica, I thought they were getting you guys to do some work and it should have been funded. Why did you have to fund this?
No, so okay. So firstly, it was a 150 member, expedition. So 150 participants were selected, and not all were climate scientists. So all are related to climate change in some way or the other, but they are not all scientists. They are from sustainability backgrounds. They are business owners who are they're startup owners, founders who are trying to do something in this field in clean energy, renewable energy. All different people, students as well. Like I went as a student back then because as a PhD student, So it was not, firstly that I wanted to clarify that. Secondly, the thing that the funding thing. So the thing is, if you can fund yourself, people would just they wouldn't even they wouldn't appreciate the fund, the selection process and the thing. Like if they fund our journeys, we wouldn't work hard for it. So the thing was that they would provide us a platform where they would bring us together. Okay. Secondly, they were giving us access to a range of people who like expedition leaders who were experts in their fields. So we were given. So when we were there, we used to have a lot of workshops and discussions and panel discussions and all that. So they brought them on board. So they also had a certain fees, So, so the thing is that from each participant, they wanted to know what you want. So from the first two process, like writing interview processes, that's how they assessed it. You can, some people might fake it, back then ChatGPT was not there, but they might use it, and they might use other kind of AI, and they might just say it. But that's what the aim was, that they would see what's in you to go through this process, because it was a very intensive, mentally challenging, financially, emotionally draining process. So it was not funded by them. It was not, so yeah. And it was organized by two organizations, which they have been doing since 1997, if I'm not wrong. So every 1.5 years, they would take expedition participants, who want to know more and in this field, related to this field, to, make them aware of the first-hand effects of climate change in Antarctica. So this year, because it didn't happen for 3 years consecutively, the number of participants were more, like 150. Generally, 80 is the max, like 80 they take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get on to this. This was such an interesting, Okay, now tell me, so that now we are in Antarctica, how did Antarctica shape your understanding of the urgency addressing the climate change? You must have gone and you were like, why is the snow melting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what happened was, when I first went, when we did the first landing in Antarctica, I had an emotional response. Like I cried. It was like very quiet. Obviously, there is no human being there, so it was just the sound of whales and penguins, and seals, and the birds, seabirds and other kind of birds. It was very surreal. It was like I don't know. It was very spiritual, actually. So it just moved me at the first instance when I landed, did the first landing. When we were there, throughout the entire period while we were there, there were a lot of rainfall events. Every day we would, face a lot of rain lashing it was like very stormy. It got very stormy. Like Antarctic weather, obviously it is drastic, it would change in a minute. You wouldn't be able to predict it. But the fact that it used to rain, it was raining so much was very alarming. Because, like, Sir Robert Swan, who was the who was the leader who took us there, he was the first person to walk to both the North and South Poles. So he has been visiting Antarctica on foot, like he has been going there since a long time. And he told us that this rain that you're facing is not normal, because Antarctica is a cold desert. It's like Ladakh, but obviously much, much colder than that. So it's a very cold desert. It is not used to rain. So it doesn't rain. It didn't rain for the last 2 million years, and now we're slowly we're slowly like observing the change, and that is impacting like the penguin chicks and, the wildlife there. So it was really also the fact that we saw predominantly only one kind of penguin. Generally, you'll find where we went, like you'll find all different kinds of penguins. But when we went there, we saw predominantly only one kind of penguin, and then we saw two different kinds, but it was really less in number. Like we could count in hand. So that was also an effect of climate change, because the different types of penguins and whales, they were moving further south because it was getting warmer and warmer, so they were going towards the pole. So they were migrating, their habitats were, migrating, and that's what like we observed. And we also saw a lot of, collapse, like ice collapsing. And that would make noise. So it was really, and when we were there, we were in the western part. In the eastern part, so there was this glacier called the Conger Glacier, something Conger Glacier, I forgot the name. But that collapsed while we were there, but it happened in the east, but it collapsed. So this was, an Eastern Antarctica is supposed to be very stable as compared to Western Antarctica. So Western Antarctica is very prone to the effects of climate change. It's been like happening, but Eastern Antarctica doesn't. It doesn't. So climate scientists generally think that Eastern Antarctica is safe, but glaciers were collapsing in the eastern part of Antarctica as well. So that's when, while observing all this, it just, and while coming back, like when we went to the land, we used to observe these things, we would come back, we saw even dead penguin chicks as well, and that happened because of the rain, because the rain would weigh down their plumes, they were developing new wings, or they do not have wings as such, but you know what I mean? So they get weighed down, and penguin chicks cannot handle it. So the thing that, all these things, it was visible in front of us. And even like we didn't see orcas, orcas were also, again, migrating south. We saw a lot of whales, but not orcas. We saw humpback majorly. And these things, when we used to come back in the ship, we used to discuss, through different like panel discussions, and we would make groups, and it was really like engaging. So that's when we realized that, the startup founders who used to come, or, who came there, and other people who came there, we learned a lot from them as well, and what they are doing to address this issue. And we also met like the HP global head of sustainability. She's a woman. Again, she's amazing, Michelle Maleki. She was one of our expedition leaders. So she came, and how HP is changing everything in terms of sustainability, it was brilliant to know a lot of programs that they have been doing that we were not aware of. Again, as an academic, I used to always read papers more, than current affairs and data. I'll be stuck in data and papers, and this perspective really, changed me, and I'm sure others as well.
So that was very insightful. While we are still on you mentioned the penguins and the humpbacks. Could you also tell us about the other life there and the ecosystems that you visually saw that,
Sure.
the climate change is bringing?
Sure. One more thing, seals. We saw different types of seals. We saw like leopard seals. It was like a National Geographic scene that was happening, like a leopard seal attacking, like eating a penguin. It was like a really, it was morbid but beautiful. It was really, beautiful. But we saw different kinds of seals, and seals generally they rest on sea ice. When you see a picture of a seal, apart from seals that are inhumanly brought into all this pools, this big, aquariums and all, I'm strongly against it. But they generally rest on sea ice, but the sea ice concentration is also changing. So I have been to Antarctica, and I'm sure most of them have been to Antarctica only once, first time. So when you see for the first time, you'll feel like there is a lot of sea ice. Like when your Zodiac moves through it, you'll hit a lot of ice, So I used to ask, like, there is a lot of sea ice, but then the people who are there, the expedition leaders, the expedition team, the other team, they said that no, you're seeing so much, we are seeing a lot of decline in sea ice, and that's why it's affecting the health of seals as well. Seals is there, something, yeah. So what happened? Yeah, that's okay. So that was one. Another thing that I learned that was something very new, and I didn't know about it at all before going to Antarctica, was a creature called krill. So krill is like a prawn. To tell the viewers, like in the most layman terms, it's like a prawn. It looks like a prawn. It's a crustacean. So to look at it, you'll feel like, oh, it's nothing. It's this small. But the entire ecosystem is dependent on that krill. So from whales to penguins, and the reason I told you that we saw predominantly one kind of penguin was because that penguin can eat everything and anything. But the other kinds of penguin, they are more dependent on krill. And krill is not available now as compared to others, as compared to before, So what's happening is that because of climate change and the ocean getting warmer, the krill population is getting affected. And on top of that, what's happening is that overfishing, humans are also fishing krills because it seems that krill oil is having like supposed health benefits, which I don't know has any scientific backup, but it's getting exploited, and that's why krill population is getting declined. It's declining, and because of it, again, whales are migrating, farther south, and their livelihoods are impacted.
Yeah, I mean, these days, anything, you just wrap it up and say anti-aging and anti this and anti that, and then people will start, using that, whether it's baking soda or apple cider vinegar, or some animal. I mean, God save us.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very insightful, like you've told us that, over climate change and overfishing and everything. Okay. So let's move on to our next question. In your opinion, what are the most critical actions that individuals, communities, governments should take to combat climate change based on your experiences in Antarctica? We could take it one by one. We could do individuals, then communities, then governments.
Yeah. Sure. Firstly, I would say start talking about it. There is this hush about climate change, and I don't know why. Even when I talk about it, like people perceive me as a party pooper, they would be like, oh, come on, like, to not talk about it now, but if not now, when? So I feel like the first step that individuals can take is talking about it, talking about climate change. You're seeing it, you're observing things around you. Observing is another thing. You observe your own home and you see what are you doing, your individual footprint. How can you improve your habits? How is it kinder to the planet, or is it harmful to the planet? Even if you are a non-vegetarian, it's fine, but I'm not saying just be drastically changing to vegan. You have to keep a balance, but I'm saying that just do it in a balanced way, do it in a sustainable way. So the thing is that one thing that people believe sustainability, they get scared of sustainability is because they think that sustainability is okay, this is right, this is wrong. But it's not like that. Sustainability is not black and white, it's a gray scale. It's relative. So if you think that you were not using plastic, good, but how can you do better? What are your existing bad habits, or even if it's good habit, how can you do it better?
Yes.
So there's always ways to learn and upskill yourselves and do something better. So I feel that observing and talking. So firstly, observe around your own house, observe around your own family members, brothers, siblings, your uncles, aunts, cousins, and then start talking about it to your friends, because if you keep feeling shy about this, I don't think what will happen. I don't know what will happen, because we just recently saw the Himachal, North India getting ravaged by floods, and that was because monsoon was, anyway it was monsoon, and then another, because of climate change, a lot of air currents, warmer air currents in the sea being produced, and when they moved eastward they both collided, and that's when the cloudbursts and flash floods happened. So it's all a result of climate change, and there is no denial about it, because we are all seeing the evidence. It's just that we are not talking about it as much as we need to. So I feel like that's the one thing that they can start doing, at least. And then when you observe, and then you can, always do better. I'm not saying that, okay, you are using a toothbrush today, you just opened a new toothbrush, which is I'm just giving an example, which is a plastic toothbrush. Fine, you're using it, but next day you saw an ad of a bamboo toothbrush, and the next day you buy the bamboo toothbrush, but you discard the plastic toothbrush. That's not sustainable, even though you are adopting a bamboo toothbrush. So you need to understand, like, again, it's not right or wrong, it's how you do better. So I feel individuals should introspect, firstly, and they should start talking among their peers and family and friends and everybody. As a community, this would create change. As a community, when people start talking, they know that, okay, you are also interested in this, I'm also interested in this. That's what happened in Antarctica. Like, we didn't know each other, and then we became a community on this spaces. Like, we became a community because of our love for the planet. And then now we always think of doing things together, not just alone. Like, it's always better than doing things together, the more the merrier. We always try to like, again, have these sessions with different colleges, different schools. So it's an effort that we are doing because we bonded for on this love for the planet. So I feel like when you start talking about it as a community, you'll anyway, get together and you can bring about change. Also, I feel like they should, they should, make conscious decisions in terms of voting as well, because voting is our basic right. And I feel like we are not using it like the way people do not vote generally. Even I should be honest, like, I have not been able to vote because I'm always out of hometown. I'm never here during voting season. I'm never here. So, but it's very important that you vote, because you can bring about that change. You can pay attention to what governments are doing to address this, because it has to come at individual level and it has to come at government level as well. It's not mutually exclusive. You have to do it together. So taking informed decision while voting, and when you go to your supermarket or any sabzi mandi, just see in your own bag, what are you carrying? Do you even need it? Is this a want or a need? These small little things, when you start observing and introspecting, I feel like that would bring about the change.
Absolutely. That is so well said. And everyone, we have posted a post that Dr. Sukanya gave us the other day. That is the changes that you can make as an individual on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
reduce your carbon footprint. by like the couple of things. So you can just go back to our post from yesterday or
Yeah.
day before and have a look. We will be sharing it on the story.
Yeah.
And everyone, you can follow our page before we get on to the other questions.
Yeah.
You can follow our page, The Paradigm Shift. We bring you interesting stories. We keep you informed. And we bring very, very interesting people like Dr. Sukanya that, work towards the betterment of self and the society, and as for the planet at large. So yeah, go and follow us right now, and we are going into the next question. Okay, so you also, okay, I want to know, do you have any powerful success stories about changes that the humans have made, and you've seen a substantial change in the environment, if
Yeah.
you have come across something as a
Yeah.
scientist?
Yeah, sure. I would just start again, give a very basic example that people could relate to, I would just give an example of my home. So when I was during 2021 pandemic, like in 2020, I got stuck in Ireland. I couldn't come home for like almost 2 years. So in 1.5 year almost. And then when I came in 2021, uh, uh, th- I just told my mom that we were conversing about the Muggle Science Podcast and things like that. So I was getting more and more involved in all these things, and then that's when I told my mom that we should do something about our food waste. So what I did was I enrolled my mom into a course which a very young group of people in Guwahati is doing. They are called Midway Journey. Like, shout out to them. I admire their work so much. So they are called the Midway Journey, and I came to know about it because a friend of mine is a member of that group. She also does a lot of these activities, and I told my mom that learn about composting. Because back in Ireland, it's difficult for me because I rent a room in a house. It's owned by a landlord. I didn't have much space to do all this. But I told her that, if you can do it, it's because we have individual house, we can do it. You should learn about it. So that's when she got enrolled. And then slowly, she got more involved with the group again. And then it was a very young group. So she was very nervous at the beginning that, what will I do? Like, there's such a young group of people, but they were so nice. And then they have a project called Power of 300. So it started with like 300 homes in Guwahati where they used to collect like single-use plastics. So what happens is that most of the plastic bags, like they say reusable, are not they are not reusable, right? Like, they are not recyclable. The last option is recyclable, and not every plastic, that you find in this planet are recyclable. Especially those multi-layered plastic, like biscuit packets and all. So these generally go to the landfill. So what they do is that all the single-use plastic and even like recyclable cardboards, Amazon, all these packages and everything, they take it and they collect it from these 300 homes. They started with 300 homes, and now it's like more than probably 5,000, 6,000 homes. And my mom also enrolled, and then she told this to the neighbors. And that's when they came at my home. They did a presentation, they did a workshop, and that's when everybody got interested. And now they, every month they come and they collect a lot. Where they didn't even come to this area, but now they come to every household to collect this, and it just brings me so much joy because it started with a small initiative, and now it brought about. It was like a catalyst for everybody. So I just feel like that Midway Journey is doing a lovely work. Like, they do beach cleanups, like Brahmaputra cleanup. They are just fab group of people. So yeah, I just feel like that's a massive success story because people are talking about it now in Assam as well, and they are bringing about changes. So that's really great. I love it. Yeah.
Fabulous. So a shout out to Midway Journey, and let's tag them once this
Yeah.
interview is uploaded. And
Yeah.
when you said Amazon, I have noticed that the packaging in Amazon has massively reduced.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would send you like a kajal pencil in like
Yeah.
a box like this, which
Yeah.
had number of
True.
numerous. This, thank God somebody went and hammered some sense in them. So that's good. And we have a lot of people that we've interviewed on the paradigm shift. Beach
Yeah.
warriors that were cleaning up
Yeah.
the beaches. Mission Clean Mumbai.
Yeah.
He's this one single-handed person, and he's
Hmm.
like, going and
Yeah.
planting trees and everything,
Yeah.
like your post is,
Yeah.
plant saplings whenever
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a lot of good work. So yes, let's
Yeah.
start talking about it, and
Yeah.
we should,
Yeah.
like you said, power of 300 and now to 5,000. That is
Yeah.
awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
True.
Okay. How do you think your qualification and your experience in climate science has influenced your perspective on climate change issues? And as a climate scientist, what are some of the potential long-term consequences you foresee if urgent action is not taken?
Well, that's why it scares me, you know. It's like that's why I have eco anxiety. But yeah, I mean, just as I said, the Himachal, the North India rain that happened, these kind of events are getting more and more, it will get even more frequent. Not just in Himachal, like in Assam, I would say, Assam is very like you have heard about Assam floods, right? So Assam monsoons are very heavy, but this time there has hardly been any rain. Like I have been here since the 3rd of July, and it's been like 1 or 2 days or max 3 days probably that it has rained. And even if it rains, it's not much, and the feels like temperature goes up to 52 degrees, which is insane. Yeah, it is
Whoa.
insane. Like I have heard about this in Rajasthan. Like people get up early in the morning, they finish their work so that they just stay inside, so that they do not have to like, face the sun. But it's happening here now. Like I had to go out yesterday and within the span of 2 to 3 hours, I got a bit like dehydrated. I got a bit sick. It was like very tiring for me, those 3 hours. It didn't happen before. So all these things really gets me concerned. It is really scary. And I feel like people should be again more observant of these issues because once like Chennai had massive drought issues one of the year. I think it was 2016 or 2017, and then Chennai floods happened. So all these are very erratic events. It's not constant. Like it's not that you're getting this kind of monsoon every time and so you'll get this kind. No, it's changing, and the seasons are shifting. So it is very again, it would become more frequent. So what happens is that what climate change data points out to is that of course the global warming thing, everyone knows about that, right? Like 2%, 2 degrees centigrade increase in temperature. I wouldn't go into the scientific part of it, just to stay like basic. I'm just saying that even people might conceive that 2 degrees, that okay, 2 degree, हाँ 34 degree है तो 36 होगा ना, it's fine. But it's not like that. That 2 degree change would result in a lot of sea ice melt. It would result in, the land ice melt, in Antarctica. It would result in sea level rise. It would result in our coastal, line getting, swept. Mumbai would disappear. It is predicted by 2050 Mumbai would disappear. So these events, as a scientist, it's because we deal with data again, we know that it is happening. We know that like rainfall, rain is getting very erratic. It's becoming very difficult to predict the behavior of rainfall as a parameter. Temperature, it's still like you can see the trend. It's you can predict it, but rainfall is getting very erratic because of this sea currents and all that has been happening. So as a scientist, all I could say in the most layman terms is that it's getting more frequent. It would even be worse because in Canada you saw the wildfire, right?
Yeah.
It's still happening. They haven't yet been able to, address it fully. Then the Himachal floods in US, in California, every year forest fires happen, it's very scary. Again, in Assam, there is the largest river island of the world, it's called Majuli. Attracts a lot of tourists every year. But the Majuli island is decreasing in size because of erosion. It's decreasing until disappear. It's predicted in the next 15 years. But it is one of the most culturally rich places in Assam. It's in a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's like things like that. You see in your own locality, and you'll notice the changes. And it's going to get more frequent. It's just that we are not talking much about it as much as we need.
Yeah, it's like I think everybody is thinking, let's cross it when we come to the bridge, and then suddenly we know that the bridge is not there.
So, exactly. Unless and until they're facing it themselves, they wouldn't, but it's just scary. It's just scary for the future generation, So, yeah.
So I think we should pack the baggage, because I'm in Mumbai. I think we should pack baggage and go up on the hills, some kind of hills, Lonavala or something. Okay.
Yeah.
So as a co-founder of Muggle Science Podcast, you've already explained to it. How do you aim to bridge the gap between the scientific research and public understanding of climate change? You've already told us, but if you want to and just add on to that.
Yeah. It's just an attempt, to talk about these things, but in a very personal way, in a fun way, because when people perceive it as educative, they feel like, oh, come on, like lecture dene aage, so they feel that way. So we didn't want to make people feel that way. So as people from an academic background, we both wanted more people to know about what we generally deal with, and in the most fun way possible, in the most basic way possible. So we bring on a lot of guests as well. So I leveraged a lot of network that I met in Antarctica. I got them on board, people who are experts in their fields, in ESG, and we again, like, try to discuss these issues in a very fun way with very fun, like a lot of fun examples. So it's so that's the platform. So it's very two friends just talking about things that they feel, that's affecting them personally as well in their lives and everything. So it's just that, as simple as that, so that people just start talking about it. So that's the aim.
Well done. Yeah. So you must share. So we are not on podcast, but if you guys have something,
we have an Instagram page. Okay. Yeah, we do have an Instagram page.
So you could tag us and we could share your posts there, so that I'm sure, because any kind of information on this is necessary, because now it's getting scary and it's getting close. So we need to kind of
definitely
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what are the key factors hindering the global effort to address the climate change, and how we can overcome these?
Hindering the effects. So I feel like, the targets that we set, we have all these conferences, the climate conferences that keep happening. People fly from all over the world. On part of research, even I have flown to conferences, because I have to present in conferences. That's a part of PhD degree. But when these conferences happen, like, people from all over the world would fly like with a massive carbon footprint, and then they would decide on a target that they wouldn't even achieve, like they would overestimate a target. I feel like governments should make targets. Now, this is my, I know they are experts too, but this is my personal opinion. I feel like targets do not get achieved because they are overestimated. It's not realistic, firstly. Secondly, there is no consequences when the target is not met. So you set the target, you try to meet it, but if you're not meeting it, there is no consequences to, you're not fined,
negative
unless
marking.
The negative marking. So unless there, unless the result is in terms of financial, in terms of money, I feel like these powerful people wouldn't, make the change. So I feel like that is the issue. I feel like people should, like, they should make more realistic goals. Of course, like, the IPCC has a lot of scientists, but when this climate conferences happen and all the governments from different nations come and they set their own national targets, I feel like these targets are sometimes just they just say it as if like they just neend mein aaya sapne mein aaya and they just said it. So I feel like they should, even when I talk about electric vehicles, for example, okay, it's a very good alternative to fossil fueled vehicle, like like petrol or diesel vehicle. But the thing is, you know you cannot just expect everyone to turn electric. That would not be sustainable. Where will all this already manufactured cars would go? Where would they go? And where would, like, that transition, when they have a lot of fields where they have like cut down forests to manufacture all these EVs. You have to take that into consideration as well. Like, you cannot just expect everybody to turn electric. It's not it will not happen overnight. So I feel like the targets are very like overestimated, and I feel it should be achievable, so that, and it should be step by step. Like, it's not that, okay, by 2050 it should be net zero. Yeah, but what is it in between? You have to make like the small milestones, like step by step, 1 year, 2 years, and just check, like, introspect what you have done so far, what you couldn't do, and and there should be fine when you're not able to do it. That's when people take it seriously. I feel like that it's an incentive based approach. uh, so I
Yeah,
feel that is
I think, sorry to cut you here. I think I saw a futuristic movie. It was something like that, where instead of your Sybil code, you would have a carbon footprint code, and there was something like that where
pretty
you
cool.
would get,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
you would get,
because not many people even realize like what their carbon footprint is, and that is normal because these topics are not accessible to the general public. It's only accessible to scientists and academicians, and people who have access to research papers. How would a general public would converse in such topics if you do not break it down to them? They wouldn't even know. They just must be hearing carbon footprint, but they might not know what is carbon footprint. So I feel like through education, a lot can change as well. I think government should pay more attention in that regard, like bring the change from the grassroots level. So I feel that could definitely help in bringing behavioral change in people.
yeah. So like my children, I remember as a kid, I have not studied anything. I mean, whatever little which was masked in geography, but or sciences. But my children, I know, so they started studying in '99, and from that 99 say onwards, we always had an environmental studies book.
Book, yeah,
So I hope, so they had like, okay, things that, very little things, something like what your chart says, where
yeah,
individual level pay you could make changes. So
yeah,
yes, like you're saying, now is the time to step it up, because things
definitely,
are getting crazy. So yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Okay, so what advice would you give young individuals who aspire to make a meaningful impact in the field of climate change and environmental sustainability?
Start talking about it. I keep repeating this, I know, but it is so hard to start talking about it. It's the biggest step. I feel like people, the first step is always the hardest. You
Right.
always feel like, if I bring out this topic, what would others think? Like, am I really a party pooper? It used to affect me as well. When I used to bring out this topic, people would just shut me down. But come on, you're not, yeah, okay, the environment would not, probably is not for that, topic, but still I would try, I try to bring that up. So I feel like, as individuals, again, start from your own home, start talking about it. Just look around first. Start with yourself. When you go out, when they say, you never go, you shouldn't go shopping when you're hungry. You buy unwanted things, they say, right? So I feel like when you, it is true. So
Yeah.
when you go, when you just buy unnecessary things which you do not need, you just want it. That's why you're buying it, and it just leads to higher footprint. It just and we are not even small things like food waste. I feel like food waste is a very potent source of greenhouse gas. We always talk about carbon dioxide, but food waste is, generating methane, which is even more powerful, powerful than carbon dioxide in terms of warming the planet. So food waste, if you look at your own home, waste, in your own home, the kitchen waste or whatever waste that is generated, uh, if you can find a way to compost it, it's a huge curbing source of, greenhouse gas. So I feel like those little changes, if just taking the amount that I know it's difficult when you go to a restaurant, probably they're giving you a lot in the plate and you cannot finish it. I know sometimes it's not, feasible, and that is okay. It's just that the acceptance, you should also be kinder to yourself. I feel like sometimes I do it to myself. I get very angry at myself when I'm not able to do a thing that I thought I would be doing, but it's not that. It's just that, again, sustainability, it's not being perfect. It's just that you're trying to get better,
Yeah.
as compared to your previous habits. So I feel like just start talking about it, man. It's just not, it doesn't make it's not a big deal. You start talking about the floods that you have seen in Kerala, in Chennai, in, Himachal, in even just in the Pakistan floods that ravaged the country, it's a
Even in
lot. It's a
Europe,
lot has
even in
in Europe,
Europe,
the
yeah.
Spanish floods. It's the same scene as we saw in Himachal, like the cars moving through the floods and things like that. It doesn't seem like Europe, so it's happening, and we know it's happening. We just don't talk about it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's talk about it. I like that. Let's
Of course.
copyright it to Dr. Sukanya. Let's talk about it. And Dr. Sukanya, I think we should continue to work closely together. We would like to post and share your podcast links on
Definitely.
our page. And I think you
Definitely.
should give us if you're doing posts and on all these little things like composting, single-use
Yeah.
plastic, reducing your carbon footprint,
Yeah.
whichever little way that we can. I think
Yeah.
please share it with us, and we would like to talk about it on our platform and make people aware so that we start towards a more a sustainable Pachoro, like we leave a planet for our children, so I
Yeah.
mean
True.
it can be that we just leave one like wet little thing or like a ball of fire or
I
whatever. I don't know. I'm so scared to even
think
think.
about
Thank you so
it.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
thank
worries.
you
It
so much,
was
Dr.
great.
Sukanya. And why don't you, give us a little closing note for our viewers?
No, I'm just glad whoever joined, I just feel like it's 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and I'm definitely sure they must be having a lot of things to do. And they were
Mhm.
here, they joined, in the beginning there were more viewers, and I feel like there is
Yeah.
one friend I know
Oh,
who's here. But
say hi.
but yeah, it's great. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much, Dipshika, for giving me the opportunity. And it's really weird that you're calling me Dr. Sukanya because it's really recent, So it's like I have to bring when I write, I forget to write Dr. Sukanya, like in the signature and all. I completely that day when we shot the role. My mom just said, "I'm proud of you, dear." She just wrote.
Oh,
She's listening from the other room, She's
yeah,
watching the live. But
hi,
yeah, I
hi, Lina. So that your daughter is going to do you proud, and she's going to have a lot more change. That she's going to be the change. She's already the change, and she's going to bring about more change for the betterment of the society. So, so we will be sharing this just for your information and all the viewers that will be watching this when it's uploaded. We will be uploading this live on Facebook, on YouTube, on
yeah,
LinkedIn, on Twitter. And Instagram, it will be getting this. So,
Yeah.
and we're not worried about the Friday evening, because I know that we get a lot of views after it is put
Yeah.
up on all the multiple platforms.
Yeah.
So, hello. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Lina. So, good evening, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.
You too.
And yes, we will leave you with what Dr. Sukanya, get used to it, Doctor. Dr. Sukanya said, let's talk about it and let's be the change.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Good
Thank
evening from
you.
the
Thank you so
Paradigm.
much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.